Hello and welcome to Arkansas Diamonds, Women of Inspiration. I'm your host, Vickie Newton. This program will focus on the role of women in society, strides, struggles, and successes. And we are joined by some extraordinary women who will share their stories and insight. Dr. Sue Griffin, Professor and Director of Research at the Don W. Reynolds Institute on Aging at UAMS and a 2018 inductee in the Arkansas Women's Hall of Fame. Katrina Owoh, President of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Beta Pi Omega Chapter, and a 2019 organization inductee in the Arkansas Women's Hall of Fame. Beth Gorman, Executive Director of the Women's Foundation of Arkansas, and Adena J. White, Director of Communications for the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Let's start our conversation with the recognition that there are some outstanding women in Arkansas. What do you think are some of the common denominators of the women who have helped move our state in a new direction?
Well, I think that basically women who make a mark, who do something that maybe would be unexpected at their time, I think they have something in common, and that is that they will do it. And whatever it is that they go toward, if they're fortunate, they have women that were role models for them, and they see a challenge and they decide they're going to take it. So they pick it up and run.
So they're able somehow to take the idea
Exactly.
and press forward and persist, as we say. What do you all think? Adena?
Yeah, I think that's great. And there's a quote that you hear a lot that says, well-behaved women rarely make history. And as a rule follower all my life, that kind of makes me cringe, but it doesn't mean we have to go and break laws, but it does mean you kind of have to push the envelope to change structures in society, you know. So I think that's a good quote to try to keep in mind without being too crazy.
Pushing the envelope a little bit. Beth and Katrina?
No, I think too that innate in who we are as women, it's if we see something that we feel is an injustice or something that needs to be changed, we're going to do something about it. And if we hit a roadblock or a challenge, we're going to be real creative in how to get around it. And women in Arkansas, by virtue of where we live in our state, I mean, we got a lot of grit, and you know, and we have a long history of women that have worked around challenges or what society said they should do to improve the community in which they live.
I love that word, grit. Katrina, you work with a lot of women with your organization, Alpha Kappa Alpha. A lot of grit in there?
A lot of grit, a lot of self-determination, a lot of conviction. We see a need, but you don't wait on anyone else to figure it out. You have to do something about it. And it's just that determination of feeling like if I don't do something, it may not get done. So let me do something so that it can be done, and hopefully someone will benefit from that.
I love that, answering that call to action,
Yes.
the courage and the grit that you mentioned. Now, you and Dr. Griffin are inductees in the Arkansas Women's Hall of Fame, and Beth, you work with the Women's Foundation, which started this wonderful Hall of Fame. Let's take a look, because every year the Arkansas Women's Hall of Fame honors women who've made contributions to our community. So let's look at why two of our guests, Dr. Griffin and Katrina, received this prestigious recognition.
I grew up in Fort Smith, and I lived there until I graduated from high school, and then we moved to Los Alamos. And I met my husband there. We went on a date the next day, so I told my friend after the second week that if he asked me to marry him, I would. And the next week he did, and I said yes, and we did. And then we went back to school. When I met with people doing science, like the people that were in graduate school, suddenly it was like magic. And when I went to the University in Tennessee, I was taking these classes like chemistry and math, and you know, it was like the light just came on. The brain was something I really always wanted to do. Then when I got to Southwestern, the other most interesting thing, so the brain would be the most interesting thing at the time, and the immune system was the other thing. So I got to combine them. We have 29 people working in our group on the program project and its goals of preventing Alzheimer's disease. all of us working just toward this goal of let's just get rid of it before it starts. We need to nip it in the bud, so to speak, because if you're already in stage 3, you're not going to get new neurons, because if you do, you won't remember that that old guy is your grandpa. You'll just know he's an old guy. So you're not going to get new neurons, so we have to protect the ones that we have. This is a serious world that we live in, and we cannot be altogether frivolous. When you're through for the day, then I want you to go dancing and having the best time. While you're dancing, if you're singing, it's even better.
Alpha Kappa Alpha was founded in 1908 on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. We were founded by 16 African American women to not only promote sisterhood, but also to have an opportunity to serve our community. So in the early days, in the 1930s, many of our charter members were educators, and so they were instrumental in integrating many of the schools here in Little Rock. Throughout the years, education has always been a focal point. So here in the state of Arkansas, we have been able to implement our signature program, Educational Enrichment, which does focus on how we can better prepare our youth. And in doing so, we incorporate one of our long-standing programs of Beta Pi Omega, which is New Directions. So through the Sorority's International Backpack Initiative, we had the opportunity to partner with many of the schools to provide students with backpacks. It was just a donation of love from our sorority. We have had the opportunity to not only service our international programs, but then we also give back in the way of scholarships, asking people to buy into our story, buy into our mission, our goal, and they see how students benefit from it, and that will hopefully in turn help a student receive a scholarship. As a result of that service, we have been able to change the lives of students, families, neighborhoods, communities, and we can get together and we can make big things happen in Little Rock.
Let me just say congratulations to two of the inductees, as I mentioned, Dr. Griffin and Katrina. You're here on behalf of the AKA organization, yes. Beta Pi Omega. You're the president.
Yes.
What made you guys stand out? What is it about you that garnered this award? Dr. Griffin, I know you've done tremendous research over the years in Alzheimer's, and you have founded a publication as well with some important and impressive attention coming your way. Tell us about it.
Well, actually, it was just something that I was always ready for the next step some way. And you know, the other night on the country music documentary, yes. This guy said something that meant everything to me, because I think I had the same kind of thing from my daddy. This guy told Minnie Pearl, when she was feeling nervous about the first time she went out, he told her, you just love them and they'll love you right back. Mm-hmm. And I got on top of so many things that could have been stones in my path, mm-hmm. just by that. And even though people, like in getting grants and establishing things, you always have, or may have, these kind of people that would like, not like you to do it. And you just have to go ahead and do what you know you must do to make a good outcome. And I think that's really all of life is like that. And every time I faced anything that might have been an obstacle, honestly, I felt like I was lucky my whole life. But then you have to decide your course and go with it.
Well, you certainly received millions in grants. I think recently $10 million
yes.
in grant money from the NIH, National Institutes of Health. Right. So congratulations on the groundbreaking work that you have done. And Katrina, you over
that's
at
the people I was working with too.
Well, see, that speaks highly of you. It's a team effort. And so what a wonderful leader you have been, and congratulations.
Thank you.
You're leading a group of women, 200 plus, I believe?
Yes, 268.
To be exact. And you all are busy. Tell us about the Fashionetta the golf tournament, and what you do with the proceeds from those events.
So our sorority was founded in 1908 to better the lives of African Americans, and as we progress over time, you know, it has encompassed anyone who has a need. And so what we do on the local level in Beta Pi Omega chapter, we've been doing it for over 82 years, and it has been amazing, the impact that we've had in our community. And how we make that impact is, one, through fundraising, and we are able to do that through the Ivy Foundation of Little Rock, which serves as our 501c3 charitable arm. And so every other year, depending on if it's an odd year or an even year, we will either have a golf tournament or we will have something that we call Project. And for the last several years, that has been Fashionetta. And so the goal is to raise at least $100,000, and each year it is our goal to distribute at least $25,000 to high school seniors and college students to further their education. And so that's just a small piece of what we do with the money, because we know there's also a service that is needed within our community. And so we also use those proceeds to implement programs that will hopefully change the lives of others.
Changing the lives of others here in our state.
Yes.
And so congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you all on receiving the Community Award.
Yes.
I want to get Beth and Adena in on this. The stories that we tell as women, how do we inspire others, and why is that so important?
I think storytelling is kind of how social change comes about. Like, without stories, there can be no change. And I just finished Elaine Welteroth's book, More Than Enough, and in that she says, if you want to change the stories, you have to change the storytellers. So we talked about, you know, kind of before the show, how we need more women telling these stories. We need more women making the decisions on what's going to go out there. Because that stories shape society. So I think that's something that we have to keep in mind as we pick those storytellers.
What a wonderful point. Stories do shape the culture in which we live. Beth?
And so the Women's Hall of Fame, I serve as the chairwoman, and coincidentally, I'm also the executive director of the Women's Foundation of Arkansas, and we are also an inductee into the Women's Hall of Fame. But the Hall of Fame came about because we need to show the stories of Arkansas women that are living and historical on how they've shaped the state that we live in, because she's absolutely right. We're going to change the story. We got to change the storytellers. But we would be remiss if we really didn't tell the story of our sisters that are living and past, that have done incredible things. You know, Dr. Sue Griffin is sitting over here being very humble, and Katrina as well. But you know, this year being inducted, when you see on stage the incredible impact that individual women, groups of women that have had, you know, you have a hope for the future, and our goal with the Hall of Fame is that we're going to inspire future girls and women to step outside of their comfort zone. You know, these women that we're talking about, they don't have to just be outliers. You know, the story of change, you know, is something that we can all embrace if we can get more girls and women inspired.
And in particular, you are the mother of a new daughter.
I am.
So these are stories that you will share with your daughter, and we
absolutely.
joke that she's the little feminist.
Tiny
of the week,
feminist.
tiny feminist. And so, to your point, it's so important that these stories are shared.
That's right. And I want her to, you know, the state where she was born, I want her to have heroes from around her that she can actually identify with. You know, again, yesterday she was dressed like Frida Kahlo, because I think it's important that she embraces, you know,
Her art side.
Great. But I want her to be just as inspired by the living sheroes of Arkansas. And so the Hall of Fame, we've got, we rely on people to nominate people to tell those stories, but it's incredible the wealth of women that we have here in our state.
What's the web address for the Arkansas Women's Foundation, so anyone listening?
I think it's AR Women's Hall of Fame, or Women's Hall of Fame AR.
Well, a quick Google search.
I know, Google search, Arkansas Women's Hall of Fame. So,
you know, as women, we wear a lot of different hats. For those who do make their mark, to use Dr. Griffin's words, how do they do so in the midst of all the other things that may be going on in their lives?
I think that part of it is you can do it. When I got my chance to go to school, I had no chance to go to school. We were desperately poor. And so I wasn't going to go to college. but I got a chance because my husband was going to go to graduate school and got a stipend. And he said, do you want to go to school? And I said, absolutely I
Really?
do. And we had 2 children. Eddie went to 1st grade, and Clay went to Miss Faxon's school because there wasn't kindergarten in Tennessee. And then I went to university the first day, and my husband went to graduate school.
What was it
And
in you that wanted to go to college with 2 small children?
It was
and
not,
didn't
it was like I
intimidate
get
you?
to go to college and I have these 2 small children, and I will make every meal. I'll iron all the clothes. I'll do,
And you
I'll
did
just be
all of
this.
that?
Absolutely, it was easy. It's not hard. You just have to know
It was
how to
easy.
do
Did
it.
you do that? It was easy?
Yeah, but I agree. I do. You just find a make it work moment,
Exactly.
and you make it work.
And then looking back, you think of when you let them, carry the bleach and the and the soap down to the laundry room.
Yeah.
And quake now, but then I didn't think a thing of it.
That is
'Cause
such
we
a
were
good
doing it.
story. Yes,
Yeah.
and moms do make that happen.
we
I
do.
remember when my mom was working on her master's, we sat in the student union while
Right.
she went to class,
Exactly.
and we were fine. But share some other
Well, it's like-
stories
and
of
sometimes in those moments
making
of,
it work.
of just being busy. I was ironing infant clothes this morning because it brought me joy. it was, out of all my list of to-dos today, this was an easy task. I could knock it out, and I was my own like judge on how well it was done. So I took 5 minutes,
just a little downtime.
just a little downtime to iron
Which
a
you
baby-
probably needed.
to iron a baby dress. But I think that's so true. It's like you can take. You want something done, give it to someone who's busy, and really, women are the greatest multitaskers.
Yeah,
and we thrive on seeing people taken care of, and for us to do that outside of ourselves, we sometimes need those additional resources. So why not get that education? Why not go for it so you can share your gifts with a larger group of people?
Do you know your brain? Your brain, if you're a woman, you have a different brain from a man.
Okay.
And there's reason for it, I guess, if somebody was planning this, because it's what allows us actually to multitask, because we have bigger connections in the areas of the brain that are important for multitasking. Wow. So just a little science lesson there.
Thank you, and we're getting that from an expert. We are equipped for this. You all are equipped for this because our brains were
we
made
just have to use it.
to do this.
We do.
Adena, storytelling, let's go back to that because you tell stories professionally. You have a podcast, but you're also the president of the Public Relations Society for the state.
Yes.
And you work for the Chamber of Commerce in Conway. And so every city has someone who tells their story.
Right.
For women who have a story to tell, what do you recommend?
I think just kind of knowing that only you can tell your story. Like, we all have our own stories. No one can tell your story but you. So I think it's just good. Don't try to be like anyone else. Just find that thing that makes you you and tell it, because some of the best stories are the ones that aren't getting told. So I think that's what we try to uncover at the Chamber. We try to what PRSA, that's what they tell us in our profession. Like, you have to find that story. And with the podcast she mentioned, I want to tell the stories of Black Southerners, because as a Black Southerner, I felt like our stories weren't getting told. When you think of the South, you think of white Southerners. When you think of Black people, you kind of think big cities, urban areas, but there's rural Black Southerners where most Black people live in the South. So I think that, so I saw a need there. So we're trying to have this podcast called Black Belt. And so that's just one area there where I saw a need for a story. So I think we all have that. You can find your story in your own life and then the lives of the people around you.
So for a woman who's passionate about a project that she's working on or an idea she has, she needs to find a way to share that and pick out the one thing that really makes it unique. Is that what you guys do at the Women's Foundation?
It's not hard to tell these women's story. It's just not. But we rely on nominations. So we rely on friends of Dr. Sue Griffin to submit her name, and it's like, here is what we know of her, and then we bring her in and capture her story. And what's wonderful is that we have a permanent exhibit at the bottom of the State House Convention Center. It's interactive. So there's actually a video recording of her story, and it's incredible. And sitting through one of our events, over and over again, all of the incredible things that have happened because women took action, because we're like, I've got something, I've got more I can do, and I need to do more, and it's truly inspiring. So I'm proud of that work, and I'm proud that we're inspiring more, and not just women, men and women, to do something for our state.
Katrina, you mentioned as well that the service in August, the celebration, was so inspiring. What did you take away from it?
I took from it, wow, this happened in the state of Arkansas. And it's kind of what Dr. Griffin mentioned earlier before we came on set. We can really have control over how someone remembers us. And oftentimes that is through a storytelling experience. And so I'm sitting in the audience and I see these women, I see these tables of women, I see groups of women, I see a young woman giving spoken word, telling the story of generations of women. And I left there thinking, I can do more. I mean, we're sitting there and we are being inducted into the 2019 class of the Arkansas Women's Hall of Fame.
Which is a significant accomplishment. And you're saying, I can do more?
But I'm thinking, I can do more, not only within our organization, but individually as a woman. What can I do? Because I've left here and I see these women who may be 40 years older than I am, 50 years older than I am, and there's still much more work to be done. And so what can I do to ensure that more stories are told?
So you walked away with new role models?
I did. I walked away with new role models and a greater sense of empowerment that I too can continue doing what we are being inducted here to do today.
So that is exciting to go to an event where you're recognized for what you have done, and to leave that event saying, there's more work to do.
There's more to do.
You almost like, man, I'm not doing enough. You feel like, I got to woman up. I've got to do some more. And it is really one of those things. And you were talking about, writing books. Like there are so many women in our state right now that are doing incredible things. Starting campaigns, wanting to do things, and sometimes you get overwhelmed. And then I love what you said, finding the power in your own story, because nobody can tell it. And every story is unique. And no matter where a woman sits, she is of value and she's contributing something. And so I think that we also have to be mindful that, as a women that we're honoring or doing things, we're also, the reason why they're being honored is they're lifting other women up. And that's really important, because we're a southern state, and we have still some cultural challenges that we have to overcome from being a deemed a southern woman. Getting married, getting an education, not too far away, that wasn't an option for some women. If you had your husband that said, do you want to do this, where that simple question, that there's so much there, what a gift that was.
Absolutely.
And we've got to inspire women that door can be open for them as well.
So I think there's something about Arkansas women too, and that is up to me and then up to all of them. Women had it tough in Arkansas. You had to be some kind of woman to make it in Arkansas. And so that actually means that you have role models that you can look at, and they are your mama or your grandmother. Or, so these kinds of interactions, that sets your bar right there that I can do because I saw them do, and it was harder for them.
So look around.
Yes.
And let the women in your own circle, your immediate circle, inspire you. Anyone you want to share as an inspiration real quickly? If we just start down here with Adena.
Oh, skip me. I'm always bad at this.
Okay. All right. What about you, Edison?
My grandmother, she had 5 children, went back to school, became a teacher, and one of the stories that she's still living, and I named my daughter after her, but she was making lunches and dinners and meals for a family of 7 on Sunday, and then driving 60 miles away to get her the accreditation she needed so she could become a school teacher Monday through Friday. I mean, but she made sure that everyone was taken care of, and I just, as a professional working woman now, like I think of, like, I don't know, like how did she do that? Like, how did she meal prep? You know, 50 years ago for an entire life with less resources and tools than I mean, and her grace, her compassion, you know. She never raised her voice to any of her children or her grandchildren. I mean, like the availability she showed. Like I mean, I can aspire to be like her, but I feel like I will always woefully fall short. But I'm glad that I'm trying to lift that bar.
Katrina?
I would say my mother, as a divorcee with 2 children, and you know, the things that I sacrifice for my son now, and to know that, and I have a spouse, and what she did for us, and you go to school, you have a field trip, and you don't know that she's giving you her lunch money. You don't know that, and I didn't know, I mean, we didn't have much, but we didn't know we didn't have much, you know, and so it's just her instilling that love within us. She never hindered us from doing what we wanted to do. She encouraged us to be the very best that we could be, and now we're living our lives and hopefully pouring a seed, or, you know, helping someone else do the same, and we don't, and she always tells us, don't ever forget where you've come from. You know, always remember that it's through blessings and the grace of God that you are able to do what you're able to do, and that has stuck with me for forever.
Well, this has been a very inspiring conversation. I have enjoyed talking with all of you, and we hope you have enjoyed the conversation at home as well. Thank you for joining us for these Arkansas Diamonds. I'm Vickie Newton.